camping is part of being in this family. If you and I are going to be part of this family, it's one of the things that God wants us to know, that you're going to have to get used to camping. And you may say, why are you saying this? Because you keep talking about, camping. You be talking about us having animals again. You be talking about, how it's going to be, what is it going to look like? Because I told you the only thing that Yah's ever promised us and our ancestors is what? What is the only thing he ever told us he was going to give us? Somebody tell me.
The land.
You ain't never lied. I'm going to give you land, right? That's what I'm going to give you. I'm going to give you some land. What else is he going to give us?
Descendants.
I'm going to give you some descendants. So your descendants can live in the land. And when you live in the land and you do right, and you listen and you open your ears that I gave you and open that little mind of yours, and you do what I say, what I'm going to give you in this season?
Food.
I'm going to give you that food, but I'm going to give you that water.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give you that rain that you need. See, I'm going to provide what you need. But before we go there, before I bring you into this promise, okay, that I made to your ancestors, I swore this to them. Before I bring you in there, I got to bring you to a place called the desert. And what's in the desert?
A bunch of nothing.
Ain't nothing out there except for you and your creator. Isn't that a great place to be brought to be trained? If you're going to train somebody, you want to put them in the conditions. You know why y'all allowed them to stay out there? So they can understand, because the wilderness in a place of destitute and being desolate, there's nothing, okay, means that was the character of the people. Listen, Yah puts people in an environment that's conducive to who they are.
Wow.
I need you to hear me. He brought them to the desert, okay? And they stayed out there for a long time because it is called being desolate. It's the breath of them. It's called Shema. Shama. Shama means where, okay? And it has the same root that has to do with the word Shema, meaning to listen. And Shema has to do with Shem, which has to do with your name, which is your breath, your character. It's who you are. So Yah brought them to a place of absolute destitution with nothing, inhospitable, not social, nothing, in order to let them know that this is what you are. And when you understand that you are nothing and that you're at a complete zippo and zero, your only dependency is going to be upon me. If you needed water, I'm going to give it to you. You need food to eat. There's nowhere to go and there's no one to go to except the creator of the heavens and the earth. He got mad at them because he said, they were like, where's our water? We're going to starve to death. He said, man, what do I have to do for you to recognize and understand that I'm in your midst? Okay. I'm with you. Okay. The unfortunate part for us is right now, Yah has done something different with us. Okay. Listen carefully. He put us in a place that he knows that's supposed to generate some type of response. Okay. So he says, when you guys go to the lands of your enemies, okay, when you get there, you go start thinking, and all these bad things are going to happen to you that we read in chapter number 26. Remember, we read that in chapter number 26 of the book of Leviticus. You guys remember that? Where were we when he talked about this? Let me read something to you right quick. Get you excited. So we can understand why we're here. All right. I'm here to educate. I'm here to educate us and to bring the truth to us. And here it is. Let me see. You're going to find this. I want you to go to the book of Psalms. And I want you to go to Psalms 107. Okay. Let's go to 107 of book of Psalms. It has to do with the Torah portion. Let's see, Psalms 107. There you go. Forgive me. Wow, Psalms. All right. Sometimes we have our favorite Psalms that we, Psalms 23, Psalms 1. We got Psalms 119 is a real big one. Every one of these Psalms have their own unique treasure. And you and I have to, when we're reading it, since we're learning about the Torah, it becomes more evident about what David was talking about and what the Levi'im were talking about, and with some of the other writers like Azraki and them, what they were talking about, and maskils and teachings, because these songs are to be sung or recited on the Shabbat. They're supposed to be recited at the temple. They're supposed to be recited and sung and put to music before Yahweh as a reminder to tell the people. These were declarations and proclamations that remain all the time. Okay. So let's start in verse number 1. I don't believe in reading one-liners and then say, well, okay, this is what it means, but I didn't give you any context. So the rules of engagement of doing any type of scholarship is get context. Okay. This is what it says: give thanks to Yahweh, for he is good. His grace continues forever. Okay. Let those redeemed by Yahweh say it, those he redeemed from the power of the foe. This is a theme that Yahweh does for us. He redeems us. Okay. He redeemed us from the land of Mizraim. He redeemed us from there. He's redeemed us from all of our enemies. He delivered them from the Babylonians. He delivered them from the Greeks. Okay. And so there's different, he delivered them from the Philistines at different times. Okay. So there's different moments when Yahweh will come in and rescue them. He rescued them from Assyria. He's rescued them from Damascus. He's rescued them from all their enemies all the time. This is what Yah does. He's letting us know this because this is who he is for us. Okay. He's a redeemer for us. He rescues us. Okay. So he gathered them from the lands, from the east and the west, and from the north and from the sea. This is what Yah is always doing. Okay. It's this concept that you and I need to get about sowing and gathering. Okay. Sowing and gathering, putting things together, like our Torah portion. Just briefly, I'll touch that. When he told the children of Israel, he says, okay, I need everyone, how old from this year to all the way up, what's the age for all the males to come to Yah to be counted?
20.
20. Why 20? What does it mean to be 20 years old in Yahweh's perspective?
You were able to. His eyes, you're an adult and you're ready to go to war.
And you're ready to take responsibility. Okay. Did they do this in secret or did they do this publicly? They did it publicly in front of the whole entire congregation. So as the sons were being called out and they were going with their fathers, okay, it was letting everybody know, okay, everyone's going to be held accountable. Okay. So we have them being separated for their service. Okay. After he finished dividing them up, okay, he also divides up the Levi'im, but he never counted them among those people. So now we have Yah counting them. We'll read a little bit about that in just a moment. So Yah is in the idea of separation, and he's in the idea of gathering certain people together and putting them where he wants them. And so there's arrangements of the camp that Yah has had for the children of Israel. Okay. Psalms 107 is going to tell us something though about their experience. It says this: they wandered in the desert on the paths through the waste. Okay. There's nothing there without finding any inhabited city. So he isolated them to a place where there's no interference. Okay. So he can talk to them and so he could teach them because they're in a place that's where Yah gets your attention. Then he says they were hungry and thirsty. Their life was ebbing away. Okay. In their trouble, they cried to Yahweh, and he rescued them from their distress. He led them by a direct path to a city where they could live. That's what he did. He's leading them. Let them give thanks to Yahweh for his grace, for his wonders bestowed on humanity. When it talks about these wonders being bestowed on humanity, every wonder that Yah has done has been for Israel. Go ask any Christian, what did Yahweh do for Israel when they were getting chased by Pharaoh and his army? What would they say? Survey says. What would they say? What did he do?
Part of the Red Sea.
I part the Red Sea for Israel. He has never done that for anybody else. Okay. And he doesn't intend on doing that for anybody else. Okay. When he planted the sun, the moon, and the stars, guess who he did that for?
Israel.
I did it for Israel. If I was to call anybody my servant who's going to serve me and be at my service, who did I call?
Israel.
Who did I get intimate with and show them these wonders of myself and open the Red Sea and killing all their enemies? I showed them all my plagues. I've turned water into blood and from blood back to water. I've done so many different things for them. I've turned every other area in that land to be complete darkness, except for where the children of who were there?
Israel.
And when I left, okay, when I had them leave, okay, I redeemed and I killed all the firstborn of not only the humans, but animals. Okay, there was a great cry. Who did I do that for?
Same people.
You hear me? So that's who you and I are. And that's what the name you and I have to live up to. We have to have our head literally turned into Yahweh's direction. So we know that we're with him in our journeys when we're being led with him. When I talk about him being with us, listen, I want to be very clear. I'm not speaking double talk, okay? Yah is gracious and he's merciful. Okay. And he's coming to us and he's visiting us. There's visitations that happen in each one of our homes. None of us came to this on our own. Nobody came and dropped a pamphlet off at your front door and told you were Israel. That's something that came from within. That was Yah visiting us. Okay. So he has visited us and he loves us and he cares about us. Okay. But we're not in his presence. Even though he's the presence, he fills the heavens and the earth. He's everywhere. But there's an idea that you and I need to understand. When we, as the people of Israel, are cleansed and set apart, and we have been gone through our Yah's process, he's going to bring us back to the land. And then he says, I'm going to live with you. And then we're going to go back and have this relationship again. Okay. So here he says in verse number 10, he says, some live in darkness and death, and dark gloom, and bound in misery and iron chains because they defied Elohim's word. Now he's giving us a clue about once they decided to leave him, which is the Torah, right? And what his words are, because the Torah is light. That's what the Torah is. Torah is light. Okay. And so when we leave the Torah, we go into darkness. And he says, who are bound in misery and iron chains because they defied Elohim's word. They scorned the counsel of the Most High. So he humbled their hearts. And this is the part that I wanted to show you. Yah humbled their hearts by hard labor. That's what it is. So our Creator is very aware of what we need in order to get our attention. That goes right along with the curses. Do you remember he says you guys are going to do all this work and you're not going to be paid? You're going to be always hungry. You're always going to have nothing to drink. You're going to be barely clothed. We read that in Deuteronomy chapter number 28. We read it in chapter number 26 of Leviticus, where I'm going to strike you. I'm going to give you hard labor. But the hard labor for us is what we need because it brings about the change that Yah is looking for. He's looking for us to humble ourselves. And therefore, Yah will bring us to places and put things upon us like he did our ancestors in order to get their attention. So everything that we're going through is in order to get our attention, to humble us. He says, when they stumbled, no one came to their aid because no one cares about Israel except for the Creator. That's what he's trying to get us to understand. We should understand that when we do cry in our trouble, Yahweh hears us and he rescues us from our distress. Israel cried to Yah when they were in Egypt, and he heard their cry, and he responded to their cry, even before they even came to know him. That's how merciful he is. And that's how loving he is. And that's how kind he is. And so because of this, he led them from darkness, from the death, dark gloom, and shattering their chains. Because remember, Yah doesn't like his people to be oppressed. He hates it. He hates the oppression. He hates oppression so much that he tells us not to oppress each other. Don't do that, because that's the way you were treated in the place that you were in Egypt. And that's the way we've been treated here. And that's the reason why we have these oppressive type behaviors. And the only thing that's ever going to break this from us is that we have to have experienced some hardships. Okay. And even in our hardships, there is still mercy. I'm not saying at any point we don't have any somewhat of what they would call joy and happiness. You might have moments of joy. But the bottom line is that we're in a place right now where you and I are supposed to be here to learn how to be humble. This is what this is about. So he'll use hard labor. Just wanted to show that to you. Okay. And then again, he says, let them give thanks to Yahweh for his grace, for his wonders bestowed on humanity. There's no other people that Yah's ever fed with manna from the heavens. The bread that we were eating were bread that belonged to the Malachim, which they would call angels in the Greek, but there is no angel. There's only a Malach, and a Malach translated is a messenger. Yah's messengers are eating the same food up in the Shamayim where he resides, and he gave it to us. We're a lot different than what you think we are. Okay. Our lives are supposed to be reflective of light. That's what we're supposed to be like. Okay. We don't supposed to run around and act as if we can't read and we don't have any understanding and making excuses on why we are not doing what he said, because that's what he's been telling us. Okay. But to give us more understanding before I leave from the Psalms, before we get into the Numbers and Bamidbar, I'm going to read just part of the Psalm here. I'm going to start in verse number 7, chapter number 19, verse 7. This is one of the reasons why you and I should pursue the Torah. Okay. And this is one of the reasons why you should not read anything else to try to get you to turn back to Yahweh. Okay. The prophets, I want to be clear. The Tanakh, you guys know what Tanakh means. What does the T represent for the Tanakh?
Torah.
Torah. Okay. And what does the next letter, the Nun, what does that represent?
And then the prophets.
Okay, so you got T, and then you got a little A, and then they got an N, and then they got an N, and then they got an A, and then they got a K. Okay. So the T is for Torah. Okay, this is just a vowel right here. That's all it is. The Nun right here represents what they call the Nevi'im. Okay. That means the prophets. Okay. Well, I told you what a prophet is. Okay, so and then over here, the K represents in Hebrew what they call the Ketu, Vim. And those are called the writings. Oh, forgive me. Ketuvim are the writings. Okay, and it comes from this Hebrew word called Katuv or Kathav. Okay, so the writings. So there's the writings, which consist of the book of Proverbs and Psalms and Job and Esther and all those other books, right? They're not instructional books. These are not to instruct us, okay? So when I read out of Psalms, it's not to give us instruction. It is to give us words of encouragement and to let us know about our past and our history and be able to understand why Yah's asking for the praise because of who he is. He's letting us know what I've done for you in the past. I'm not giving you any instructions in the book of Proverbs, in the book of Psalms. Those are not instruction books. Those are books of encouragement. The prophets are going to give you something called warnings. And they're going to tell you about what's coming, okay, in the future. So they're going to tell you, because what they're telling you is because they're a prophet, they're a Navi, N-A-B-I or N-A-V-I, depends on how you pronounce it, is the seed that's inside. And so I got to tell you about it in a future tense, because if I tell you in future, when it flourishes, the seed that I just gave you, it flourished. And then what I told you that it would be, even though you just saw the seed, if I told you it was a blueberry and I just showed you the seed, you didn't know it was a blueberry, and then all of a sudden turn out to be a blueberry, you go, oh, you know what he said, he knows what he's talking about. He knows exactly what he's talking about. So you got to give that time for that in particular seed to flourish. These are not instructions. These are not instructions. Yah is never instructing anybody out of the book of the prophets. He's given them a warning to turn back to what I said. Okay. So that leaves us with the Torah. Okay. The Torah is the instructions. It's how Yah is going to point us. It's like pointing. It's to, let's slow down. It's to point the finger. It has the same root as the word for rain, pointing, like the rain points in a certain direction, it's directional. So the finger, if for pointing, is to point you in the direction you need to go. I need you to go over here. Yah's pointing us where I want you to go. He's leading us along that. So those are instructions. So the only thing that you and I need to understand about any type of study, this is the reason why we study the Torah. And yes, we do read the prophets and we do go over the writings, but our focus is always about what did he say? What did he instruct us in? And what the psalm here is saying is, I need you to remember. And what we need to remember is that the Torah of Yahweh is perfect. There's nothing to be added, nothing taken. And it does something. It restores, it's restoring the inner person. So the more that you read the Torah, you're dealing with the inner person. That's what you're dealing with. This is what the Torah is for. The Torah is for the inner person. The Torah is not just like you would think on the outside, it's to deal with this individual. And what the inner person is called your nefesh. Why does this keep doing it? I'm sorry. Technology. No excuses. It's your nefesh. It's who you really are. It's the life of you. Okay. Your inner person. So if you don't read the Torah, then you're not going to have this dealt with, which is the inner person. It won't be restored. The instruction of Yahweh is sure. Okay. So the question then would say, well, what are the instructions? I thought you just told me that the Torah is instruction, but then you have this Hebrew or this English word right here called instruction. So let's go find out what that particular word is. And the way you do that is you go to Bible Hub and you're going to go find where you want. You go click on it and go to, where are we at? You're going to go to Psalms, Proverbs. You're going to go to Psalms, and then you're going to go to that in particular chapter, and it's chapter number 19. And then you're going to go here, and we're verse number, I think, 7. And what we'll find is, here you go. And this is the Hebrew, and it's from right to left. And so what does it say here? It says the Torah, it got law. It's not law. So the instructions, the pointing of Yahweh is perfect. It's tamim. It's completely, it's complete. That means it's perfect. There's nothing that you can add to it. Okay. And it's converting. It's return, it's causing the soul to return. Okay. And that's a participle. So it's actively causing that to happen. This verb that they're using is called a hiphael. And remember, I told you there's simple, forceful, and causative. Well, this is causative. So the thing that's causing this to happen is the Torah. The Torah is the cause of this, of your soul, your nefesh, like I told you, and the testimony of Yahweh. Okay. So I'm glad we went to the Hebrew, because the other one that we just read didn't say the testimony. Okay. It didn't say the aduth. It said that the instructions, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it said the instructions. So we see here that when you have the instructions, it really should read this word right here. Should not read instruction. It should have read what we have in Hebrew, which is aduth, right here. Our last lesson, I brought out the fact that the first letter of this is an ayin. It has to do with the I. The next letter is a dalet. Okay. The same letters that are being used right there, the same letters that are for what they call the Edah or the Adath. And do you guys remember what the Edah or the Adath is? It's okay if you don't. They call it the congregation. Okay? That's what it means. It means that what they would call the assembly. These are English words that they're putting in place to tell us what it is, just a congregation assembly. But we know that the ayin has to do with the eye and the dalet has to do with the door. So we know the eye of the door, or turn your eye towards the door, meaning look towards the door. What door? The tent of meeting. Why? Because what's inside the tent of meeting is a testimony. That testimony is called an aduth, which if you and I to break that aduth out, a witness, and the witness is a testimony of witness, which is the witness of what Yah said, which were the 10 words. That's what you and I are witnessing. This is the reason why he's holding us accountable to that in particular testimony. That testimony is what Yahweh's testimony of what he said. So, and we look at this, you would understand that if you do not get to the Torah, which we know that is complete, they say it's perfect, but let's talk about it. It's complete. Nothing can be added to it. It's what's going to return, continually turning the soul, right? That's what it does. And it says the aduth of Yahweh, the testimony of Yahweh, is ne'amana, meaning that it is true, it's sure, and it stands firm. Okay, because that's what faith in Hebrew talks about, being sure and being firm like a pillar. So you put a pillar and something firm under something to make sure it stands. Yah is saying that this right here that I'm telling you, is going to stand sure. There's nothing about it that's going to change. And what it does is it causes to make someone wise. It's a participle. It's causing someone to become wise. If we don't read the Torah, this is all about the Torah. This is all about the testimonies, the aduth of Yahweh. If we don't turn to Yahweh, okay, and I'm going to erase all this right quick so we can get a clearer picture. If we don't mashivath, okay, mean to shuv back to Yah, then you and I, our souls are not going to return right here. That's what it's supposed to do, okay? If you want to be wise, then you and I are going to have to understand that what Yah said about the 10 words is 100% sure. There's nothing that can be changed. If this is Tamim, it's 100. There's nothing to be added, nothing subtracted from it. But these are the things that are going to cause things to change in our lives, okay, and prepare us for what Yah has intended for us. And so it says here, I like this word, by the way, for simple. The simple-minded is called pethy. Pethy, or like I would say pathetic, pethy, the person who's pethy. It makes them wise. A very simple-minded person can end up reading the Torah and become like super wise. That's where our wisdom comes from, okay? And then it goes on to talk about the Bakude, okay, the statutes of Yah, which again, this right here is a misrepresentation because statutes can't just be the Bakude when they are the Kukim. So this right here is a misquote. Bakude means accounting. It means the accounting of Yah. They said it's the statutes of Yah. But I guarantee right quick, because I know the Hebrew, if I push on there, the letter, the word is going to be called pakad or pakwad. And let's see. It says pakude, but I know it's the mustering, the counting. Okay, it's a precept, a pakud, close. But where's the pakud come from? It comes right here from this word pakad. Right here, pakwad. And what's a pakwad? Well, let's go figure out. A pakwad, again, will be the mustering, the accounting, the appointment, the visitation. And what does it mean that? It means this. In Hebrew, it means to be an overseer. Okay, that's what pakwad means. To appoint to be an overseer. So for example, when we look at this word that he says, the pukude that we said, that we just read in Psalms 119, we're going to go look at it again when it talks about being an overseer. They said it was the statutes, but they're not giving you what it really means. The overseer is the one who oversees what? The things that I've appointed. So if I gave you something, I'm going to come and say, well, I gave you 15 bundles of barley. Well, if I gave you 15 bundles of barley, I want to come back and do an accounting on it to make sure that if you sold it, the price for 15 had to be a certain amount of dollars. I'm going to come and make sure that you sold it for that price. If there's a reckoning coming, when it talks about Yahweh bringing judgment and it talks about him visiting the iniquity, this is the word that they use. They use pequod because that's Yah coming to say, I'm making everybody accountable. I need to attend to things that I've given. So let's find out right quick, going back to our Psalms 19, since we know now what that means, because I told you it was a mistranslation, which is true. It's a mistranslation. Go back. Pequod. So now we know when it talks about these accountings, these musterings, these overseeing of Yah, because Yah was the overseer. He says it's going to be right. It's going to be Yasharim. It's going to be straight. And when it is straight, when the accounting comes back straight, then the heart, the mind begins to rejoice. And we can learn a lot from this. Okay. Remember, I told you this in particular this week, Torah portion is going to be about order. Okay. So you and I are not in the desert at this moment. We might be in the desert of the Gentiles, but you and I are not in a place where Yah's talking to us and dealing with us directly like he plans on to as a nation. Individually, we have our challenges, okay? But there's something that you and I can pick up what Yah just laid down, which means that if we were to understand and accept that there will be a time of accounting, then you and I are going to have to set in order the things in our life, okay? We're going to have to give an account. Right? That has to do with your money. That has to do with money. It has to do with resources. We're not talking about, well, you're just going to be spiritually. That's easy because you can't quantify anything. Okay. So if you look at what you have resources. And one of the greatest resources that you and I all have, and we should appreciate, is our time. Yeah, I was talking to us. He's going to hold us responsible for our time that we were here. He's going to hold us responsible for the resources that we have, the accountings, because Yahweh is everything that Yah has put in our lives. You have to be accountable. You have to be accountable for your children. You're going to be accountable to your marriage. You're going to be accountable to your business. You're going to be accountable to the lives of the people that Yah will put in your life. You're going to be accountable for the things that you said. You're going to be held accountable for the things you didn't say. Whether you're supposed to say thank you, you didn't get a chance to say it, you're supposed to say it, and we should say it. If you have the opportunity to say, sorry, I made a mistake, you need to say that. Everything is being recorded, like I told you. So this whole idea about the wilderness, this is the reason why he brought them out there, is to spend this time with them, to make them more efficient. You understand? Well, how does money and all that go into? They had resources, and they were supposed to dedicate what they willingly wanted to in order to give it to the Mishkan. They have resources. They have finance called Kasef. Kasef is silver. They had Kasef. They had Zahav, which is gold. They had that. They had precious jewels. They had time, but there's other resources that we have that we need to use, okay? One of the things that we need to focus more on too is by being more graceful. We need to show some pity. We need to have some compassion. These are some of the things that we need to have along with the resources that we have that are tangibles. You understand? This has value. These are the things that we need to value. Okay. Because when we're dealing with our Elohim, he uses these things down here to find out what are the things that are going on in here. This is one of the things that he wanted to see. Somebody give me an example off of me telling you that Yah told us not to glean our fields. Why not glean your fields all the way to the end? Tell me why.
To leave food for the
Leave
poor.
food for the poor.
Yes. Okay. And he wanted to know, he said, if you guys are going to bring me if you want to redeem a donkey and you don't want to redeem it, then you got to go ahead and break its neck. Why would he tell them to break the neck of a donkey? Because Yah is interested in breaking a donkey's neck? I'll tell you the reason why. Yah says everything that comes out the womb is mine. Okay. And if you had a donkey, what they call
because it was an unclean animal.
Thank you. It's an unclean animal, but he also says when you do it, if you had an opportunity to redeem it, if you wanted to, you'd have to replace it. What would you have to replace the donkey with? A lamb.
Mm.
So Yah is trying to see if a person is selfish. You see? Where's his heart? Because guess what? A donkey, listen, can do more work than a lamb can.
Right.
What kind of heart would want to break this neck of this beast that provides for them and helps them with their labor? Do you understand? So Yah does things to us and he puts us in positions to find out. What are you going to do with it? We don't think that Yah was in charge of everything that's in our lives. And I got news for you today. Every single aspect of your life he knows about. He knows how much money we have in the bank. He knows what we need. He knows what's going to be our end. He knew our beginning. Did we read that? Did someone just tell me this week that it was in Psalms 139 that he says, I know everything? David said, all my days were already written out before any of them ever happened. That's the Elohim that we serve, is the one who's going to hold us responsible. He wants to turn our souls back to him through the testimonies and the instructions. He wants to be the one to point the finger to show us the right directions, not because I don't want you to have anything. It's simply because I'm trying to lead you in a path that's going to bring joy instead of all this misery that you want to choose. We have been miserable as a nation of people. We can't pull it together. I got people who are like, hey, let's open up a learning center and teach the young people and this and this and that, and we can educate them. I'm like, great, that sounds wonderful. But what are they going to do with the Torah? People don't want to learn the Torah. They don't want to learn it. They're doing everything they can to not understand the language because they don't feel it's necessary. They don't want it. Let's be honest. They really don't want to be a people, because any people around, or I would say others besides Israel as us as a people, they have what we would call, they have a land, they got culture, they got traditions. Guess what also they have? They got a language. That's part of it. I forgot how to spell language. They have arts, they have music, they have clothing. That's all part of culture. Language is one of the biggest parts of culture than you ever can imagine. That's why I try my best to continue to teach our people. And even in my studies, I like to put you guys up on words that you should know. Because it's not going to get it overnight. It's going to take time. And that's fine. But you know what an odd is. You know what an aduth is. You know what ada is. You know what all that is now. You know all the connections. You know what that is. Now you know what a pukad is, or pequad, or pekude. You know what that is. and you're going to hear it over and over again. So if you forget it, don't worry about it. The more you hang around in the culture, in the language, the more you'll start getting to you. When someone says Torah, you know what I'm talking about. We start using the word Kwadosh, you know what that's talking about. We say, Lila Tov, we all know what that's talking about. We say Shalom. So there's really no excuse. Yah is interested, and I want to give you a little information too about this in particular word right here. In verse number 8, it says this word called, is my pen gonna work? This word right here, okay? The root of it is called samak, okay? And that's fine. But I want to let you know this little dash that you got right here, and just remember it. Every time you see a little dash like this after a Hebrew word, you'd be like, well, what is that? All that means is that this word right here goes with the next word. They're connected. So when I say masamake, okay, masamake, I don't suppose to just say masamake by itself. I'm supposed to attach the next word, which is lave. So I suppose go masamake lave. That's what I'm supposed to say. I don't supposed to go masamake lave. I go masamake lave. This little thing right here is connecting this word and that verb to this in particular noun. It's very, very powerful because now Yah is letting us know if it's connected here, what Yah was saying is the whole and the lave is your mind. That's what the lave is, not your heart in English. It's your mind. That's what a heart is in Hebrew, your mind, okay? Because that's what Yah is after, if I didn't tell you already. Why is this not working? Let's do this. Somebody tell me, what is this letter in Hebrew? Give me the name of the letter.
Lamed.
Lamed, okay. And the Lamed is a Lamed, a L in English, and an A, and then an M, and then an E, and then the D, okay? So Lamed, okay? That's the name of the letter, Lamed. And Lamed means in its translation, it means to learn. That's what it means. What's the actual picture graph of the Lamed? What picture, ancient picture represents the Lamed? What do we have?
Staff.
We got a staff, okay? So we have a staff, and when you have a staff, you use a staff to lead, right? So if I'm writing slow, forgive me, my pen stopped working, so I'm using my finger on my pad. All right, so we got a staff, okay, like a shepherd's staff, okay? And this is the reason why it looks the way it does. It looks like this, okay? So that's the staff, and you have a staff in your hand, and you use it to guide and to lead, okay? Now, what's the next letter?
The bet.
The bet, okay? So this next letter that he just mentioned is called a bet, okay? And you can put it like, hey, I'm gonna make a bet, a B-E-T. And I'm not talking about Black Entertainment Television. B-E-T, okay? A bet, okay? And so a bet means to be within. It means a tent and a dwelling, okay? So I just gave it away. So the actual identifier of this is a tent, okay? So it means to be inside. It's a dwelling place, okay? I also forgot to mention that the staff that's in someone's hand, the person who holds the staff is the one that's the leader. And that's why you can use the letter L for Lamed as well. It can remind you. If we had some cooperative pen, and I can write that out. So if you have a Lamed, if you're one with the staff in your hand, you're the one who's in charge, and you're the one who's been given authority. Okay, so I don't want you to miss that piece. So a person who's holding the staff is the person who has authority. Okay, so now that we know this, and we look at the Lamed, and then we look at the bet, and we know what they mean. It means to learn. It means to, be an authority. It means to be moved in a direction. All right. So there's a lot of different ways we can look at this. So let's look at it. Several ways, but let's look at it this way first. If the Lamed is a staff, and it's authority. It's the authority, and a bet is the tent, meaning inside. So what is Yah saying that your mind is? Because your love is your heart, is your mind. What is it? It's the authority, what? It's your authority within. It's your authority inside. That's what it is. Okay. So that's first. Can everybody hear me? Did I lose anybody?
No, I'm still here.
Okay. Does that make sense? So the mind, and this is what Yah was after, the mind is the authority inside. Authority inside. Okay. Now, that's one way to look at it. Let's look at it another way. The lamed is a staff that's supposed to move things forward. That's why the letter by itself is a preposition to move to or for. That's what it means, to or for. You're going to move to somewhere, or you're going to move it for something or someone. Okay. So to or for, that's what the lamed means, to or for. So it means authority. It means to move to or for inside the dwelling. Okay. So you're going to take an authority, something, a staff, and you're going to move the house in a certain way. Okay. So our minds is housed inside of our bodies. So if you got your mind right and you're leading your mind with that staff, okay, then you'll be leading the house where it needs to go. You'll be leading your mind where it needs to go. So it's the authority within, it's the authority that moves you. You're being moved, and it's based upon your own decision-making process. So Yah's intention is for the lave, which is the mind, to be in a state of joy and rejoicing. This is what Yah is, that's his intention. I know right now it doesn't appear to be the case, but Yah has done this, what he has done to us, in order to bring us to a place of we can understand what he wants, meaning I want your mind to always be in a state of rejoicing. I want you to be happy when you go out and you harvest your fields. I want you to experience joy in your family while you have a family, because one day your day's over and you're going to lay down and you can't praise me, you can't rejoice, you can't do nothing while you're in the grave. Right now, while you're alive and use your mind, I want you to rejoice in all the things that you do, because this is your time. This is your moment. This is your time that I set for you on this earth. I chose for you to come at the time that I chose for you to come. I have others who have come before you. And I always told man exactly what it is. Yah wants us to, he says, what is it that we should be doing? How do we know that what kind of life should you and I be living? And the life is, he says, for number one, I believe, and I don't want to misquote, because I don't want to seem like I'm saying something out of context. Do you guys get anything about what I just said about this lave part, about how Yah's intention is to make by him accounting and him bringing us to this, he wants the desire for the mind to be in a state of rejoicing. And you and I cannot legitimately rejoice unless you and I have his Pekude. You don't want to be the person, again, like the goat that's been sent out to the wilderness. You don't want to be that goat. You don't want to be the scapegoat. You want to be the goat that's presented to Yahweh. We don't see the value in being the ones that Yah says, I want. Yah could have chose any other people on the face of the earth, but he chose us. He didn't want to reject us and send us away. He wants to receive us, and he wants us to be his people, and he wants to be close to us. And what he's saying is that when I come close to you, you're going to have to be instructed, that you saw in verse number 7. Okay. So I can turn your soul to me. You're also going to have to understand that what I said with the testimonies is true and is firm, but there's a benefit of following what I said, because since they're sure and since they're firm and they're like pillars, you should know that anything that you hear from my mouth will make you wise. I'm trying to bring you to wisdom, so you stop being a simple-minded person like everyone else. I've introduced you to my world. I brought in things that you've never heard before. And they're so beautiful that the nations would ask you, Who has heard of such a people who have such a great, a wonderful Torah as this? Who's ever heard the voice of Elohim? Who's wise and understanding people? Who are these people that have this Torah? We don't see the value in the Torah. And that's the reason that you and I are suffering. Because for some reason, we found value in other things. But the Pekude is saying to us that Yah wants us to understand, my accountings on your life is to make you be upright. I have to lift you and elevate you above all other people so they can show you some respect. And as long as you're being a whore, and as long as you're being a disrespectful son and daughter, and as long as you're being an unfaithful servant, you understand, and a senseless and unstable and unfaithful wife to me, I can't put you on front. I can't share you as something that's precious to me. What you've caused is caused a breach in our relationship, and now we're going to have to start over. So those of us who are on Zoom tonight, you and I are the people that were survivors of the people who Yah has brought to this land. And I'm the ones that he's chosen for us to get it. The Pekude is there to make you and I understand. And if we're going to be around the Creator, he wants us to have a heart and a mind of rejoicing. Not because you're happy because you didn't die. You're happy because you know that Yah has made you right. You know that he expects you to stand firm and to be upright. You should know that he's not interested in us being oppressive towards anyone. Yah has used us as the poster child of what happens to anyone that goes against him. He says the commandments, the mitzvah of Yah, the command of Yah is bara. It's pure. Bara there has to do with grain. Okay, it has to do with purification, because with the grain, they would take the grain and they would mix it up. Okay, look, it's pure and clean. And they create soap out of the grain from the word bara. It's purity. It has to do with grain. That's how they got their soap. You understand? Pure. They're using terms here that you and I will, okay, well, that's pure. Well, what is pure? According to Yahweh, it's the taking of the grain. And when they take the grain, they burn it up and they make potash out of it, and it turns into soap. So every resource that we've ever had as a people were being used, all of the resources. See? Use your resources. Again, okay? So the commandment of Yah is something to purify a person and to ma'idrath, enlightening the eyes, giving you or. That's what Torah does. That's what the commandments do. So you can see your way through a place of darkness, like you and I read about what he said about the people that are walking in darkness. I want to give them light so they can see. Because let me ask you something, so their eyes can see. Ain't that name? What was it that they saw? What did they see in the wilderness?
So
What did they
fire.
see? Yeah. Was there any light out there?
It was a
Huh?
cloud.
Yeah, it was a cloud, but did they have any PG&E? No, thank you. Did they have any PG&E? Come on, everybody's being quiet. Did they have any light?
Yes.
Well, who was their light?
Yahweh.
Yah was their light. Don't you get it? That's what he wants to do with the Torah. He wants to make the Torah our light so you and I can get through the darkness. So we won't trip and stumble and fall. He wants us to understand that if I'm going to be with you, there will be an accounting. Any questions before I move on? Let's end with this. let's understand this. And I thank you for your time tonight. If we want to understand our Creator, you and I have to be willing to accept whatever he tells us that we need to do, and how the processes of what we got to go through in order to find out what's wrong with us. This is not, well, I put you guys in exile just because I wanted to just do that. And then I'm going to come gather all of you guys. And then when you get back, and then we're going to talk about it. No, we were sent here. And so in order for us to learn, and the labor was to bring affliction, and affliction is for us to cry out to Yah. Also too, Yah's trying to show us all the areas where our ancestors failed and say, okay, well, what are you guys going to do differently about it? What are you going to do about it? Are we going to keep making excuses, or are we going to accept what Yahweh says? Are we going to say that, ask yourself this question. Do I want Yah to do a bakwad on me? Do I want him to do an accounting on me? What am I going to be held responsible for? I'll tell you what you're going to be responsible for. You and I are going to be responsible for what we say. We're also going to be responsible for what we have done. We're going to be responsible for the things that we think. We're going to be responsible for where we spent our time. We're going to be responsible for all the resources. We're going to be responsible for our husbands or our wives when Yah put them in our lives. We're going to be responsible how we treated our brothers and sisters. We're going to be responsible about the Shabbat. We're going to be responsible for the covenant. You're going to be responsible. You're going to be responsible for your time. You're going to be responsible for what you wore and what you didn't wear. You're going to be responsible. And that's something that you and I have never been taught. And we need to understand it. That's what he's trying to tell us. Shabbat, we're going to go over the Torah, like what we've been learning. But these are the framework of what Yah was letting us know, that, hey, I'm going to hold you responsible. I need to divide you up. I'm going to put you guys back in your right families and your clans. I've chosen leaders. And when you get to the land and I bring you back into the wilderness, you and I are going to have a conversation. And I'm going to make an account on you. I'm going to judge you for your behavior, your actions, and your conduct. And I'm going to see if you were wholeheartedly with me. And a lot of people are not telling our people this. What they're doing is they're wasting their time. I always ask myself, well, I only get like people, I might get like 50, 60 views. And there's people who are talking about nothing to get thousands of views on their YouTube channel. And they're not talking about anything. And then you got thousands and thousands of people. I got to keep reminding myself that this is truth and that this is what we do. There's only going to be a small group of people. And you and I are those people. I'm not trying to exclude anyone else. I'm telling you straight up that we're the remnant. We're the remnant. I don't care how many people are going around with outfits on. I don't care how many people have the armbands on. I don't care how many people you see dancing in a circle. I don't care what they're talking about. There's only going to be a small remnant of people. Yah spared 8 people's lives and destroyed the whole entire planet. He does not have a problem starting over. He doesn't. And he's guaranteed that I will put an end to the nations. And I'm going to kill the sinners of my people. I'm going to destroy the people. The people that said I'm not going to do anything to them, those are the ones I'm getting. This is not a fear tactic. It's the truth. You and I have to wake up and understand that this is not a joke for us. This is not a game. This is not a trivial matter. This is your life that we're talking about. It's a matter whether or not you and I are going to be able to continue on this path and in this journey. So stay encouraged. Understand this week is about order. And it's about Yah putting us in order and letting us know you need to get your life together. You do. And I'm not just talking to being spiritual, where you just, you just want to read the Bible or read the Tanakh all the time. You got to put the things that you're learning into practice. We got to be careful how we talk to each other and how we treat each other. We know we've been oppressed. We're going to have to show a little bit more kindness, and we're going to have to be a little extra patient. Now, I'm not talking about putting up with no foolishness. What I'm talking about is understand, and try to talk reason. And if they don't want to listen, then you know what to do. Don't be mad. Just let it go. There ain't no time for arguing. There ain't no time for being upset about nothing no more. That time is over. Okay. Any questions? Statements, contributions. Fanta is going to lead us in a song. Go ahead, Fanta.
I'm positive you don't want that.
All right, I used to have a Bible study teacher. This boy, he used to put me on the spot out of nowhere. I'll be sitting in the class or whatever. He said, okay, lead us out in prayer. I'll be like, what? I ain't gonna do that to you guys. Anyway. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, by the way, today was my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Yeah.
Did you get my greeting?
I sure did. I'm 52 years old today.
Oh,
Thank you guys so much for your happy birthdays and your wishes towards me. I'm excited about being able to share this time with you guys. You know, it's the gift. It's the gift that I got. I appreciate you. Of course, my wife has done some wonderful things. Man, she made me some wonderful red snapper tonight. It was beautiful. So I want to personally thank her for that. That's one of my favorites. So I had that. Going out eating sometimes is cool, but it ain't nothing like home cooking, Anyway, thank you guys for your prayers and thank you for your support. And let's learn how to live amongst each other and live out this Torah in our lives. How's that sound?
sounds great. Sounds like a plan.
Sound like a plan. All right. So I'll see everyone on Shabbat. Until then, I say shalom to you. Lila Tov.
Lila Tov.